Hello, 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 my beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode of The Motherload. I am your host, LWB. Today's podcast is brought to you by Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Spreaker.com, and a WWB production. With music by Mr. Andrew Riley. Well, folks, today it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to the newly published book, Not Born This Way, by Sara Weiss. Sara never saw herself as a writer, but has been told by many people, including the legendary Les Brown, to write a book after hearing her unique story. It's a story of how she spent 27 challenging years living and expressing an outward male persona that didn't quite match her soul's truth in creating an incredible, authentic life by her design. And allow me now to share a message from the author on the back cover. I've been abused. I've been lied to and cheated on, and it's cost me friends and family. I've been fired from jobs I loved. I've been on welfare. I'm a single mom, and my name is Sara Weiss. I've been ridiculed for being different and endured hatred as the label transgender has been forced upon me. It was a lonely existence as I was buried deep in victim mentality. I found the strength to rise above, creating a level of self-confidence I never imagined I could have. I've overcome my challenging experiences to create an enriched life that I've always dreamed of. Now, I am a leader, a coach, and an inspiration for people to live their greatest lives. I have become a source of motivation to help people achieve the highest version of themselves. Looking at all of my accomplishments, it's clear I was not born this way, and taking control of my life made all the difference. Reading this book will not only reveal the path I took, but might be the guiding light you need to empower you to redefine your story. And with that, an excerpt from Chapter 1. While I grew up in a toxic environment and traumatic, no doubt, I want to make it clear that I hold no resentment towards my father figures, my mother, or my childhood. I also don't judge my father for the way he lived. We're all just trying to figure it out as we go along. And he just ended up lost along the way and not living his best life. I forgave him long ago. I didn't have this kind of forgiving and understanding maturity all my life. It did take a toll on me that my father wasn't even a father figure. I had no one to yell, "Daddy," at when I was happy, mad, and sad, or excited. I will never forget the awkwardness at school during Father's Day when I had nobody to make the Father's Day craft for. I had constant questions in my head about a whole other side of my family who I barely knew. I continued to wonder if I would end up anything like my father and if it would be a good or a bad thing. I kept thinking of the answers I was looking for and thought maybe having a dad would fix things. I took it hard as a little girl. It was one of the most confusing and challenging times. A second excerpt from Chapter 1. I spent a lot of my life using my past or my father as a justification for some of my issues, like being stuck, frustrated, lost, hurt, spinning my tires, for life being so hard, my lack of successful role models to help me excel, for my depression, for the countless mistakes I've made, and for wanting my life to end so many times in my life. But eventually I realized that none of that had to define me or my future. I eventually realized I could define my future how I wanted to, and that I had the power to design who I became and what my future would look like. I realized that we don't have control over the cards we're dealt. We only have control over what we focus on and how we show up and respond. A final excerpt from Chapter 4. Kids used to be scared of monsters, but I was terrified of my own thoughts. I can't even begin to express how scared I was. I was a kid who kind of liked having friends, but they were already hard to come by, mostly because we would be moving around all through public school. The friends I did make were often gone from my life by the next year. I was battling society's norms and trying to keep my social life up, and that was also taking a toll on me. During this extremely confusing time in my life, my mom had found a guy she started dating. And this guy was a typical biker type. He was burly, very rough around the edges, loud, racist, macho, and sexist. I must say it was great timing for my male role model to be a close-minded, macho, biker dude. A couple of weeks with him and my mind said, F it. I decided that not only would I not act on these feelings which I should be identifying and expressing as my true feminine self, but that I would start to become the boy that society wanted me to be. I spent a lot of time modeling my mom's macho boyfriend and his son, who was my age. This is where I began to really shift. I started developing a mask and my walls thicker than nobody could break. It was the beginning of a persona that I would keep up over many years. I went from being sensitive, gentle, and feminine to developing a tough, overcompensating macho persona. No one else could tell that I was any different. However, my mom and grandmother were the only two people who saw through my mask. I remember that it had become a ritual for them to constantly sit me down and tell me how, if I ever wanted to ever come out, they would still love and support me. They were the only ones who saw who I truly was as a child, and they thought I was gay. Well, folks, we thank Sara Weiss for her trust in reading her chosen excerpts from her newly published book, Not Born This Way. What a beautiful way to close out this week with this wonderful message from Sara herself, reminding us to always seek within for our truths and our light. And with that, my beautiful people, thank you so much once again for tuning in to the Motherload. Until the next time, stay bright, stay light, know that you are loved. And with that, everything is going to be all right, folks. I'm LWB. Until the next time, be good.